Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Thursday morning webinar. I'm Chloe Tetro, I'm the health coach here with Ready Care. Here's my little name. And welcome to those joining live, and hello to those watching back. For this morning, guys, we're going to have a look at the transformative power of purpose-led living, basically. So what I'll do for today is give a very, very brief overview of theory, because to be honest, there's plenty of videos out there that I've done with the theory. So for those that are looking for the more nuts and bolts aspect of the neuroscientific components of purpose-led living, you can go into previous videos of purpose. But for today, it's going to be more of a practical application. So it's taking a lot of that theory with regards, what is purpose-driven living and how can it supercharge our day and really, really bring it down into practical exercises. So transformative power of purpose. So our lives are shaped by the choices that we make every day. I had somebody say to me recently, it's like a real life RPG game. That's a great way of putting it. So choices that we make and the choices are guided by our underlying purpose. So purpose is more than just this kind of ephemeral notion. It's a really powerful force that can fundamentally alter our mental landscapes and can empower us to live more fulfilling and productive lives. And at the end of the day, really, what we have is our experience of the day-to-day. So within these talks that I do with you guys, I really like to focus on what is our felt experience of the day-to-day. And if there's plenty of research and literature out there to say that purposeful living, which I'll go into a little bit as to what that entails, enhances our day-to-day experience, why wouldn't we do it? So science has shown that having a strong, clear sense of purpose can activate specific regions of the brain, which are associated with focus, decision-making. So that's our prefrontal cortex, which we'll have a look at in a minute, and leads to enhanced cognitive function and overall well-being. For today, we'll have a look at a little bit of the neuroscience behind purpose, but really having a look at the practical elements. So giving a brief overview. So how is our brain supercharged? That's a bold statement to make. How is purpose this superpower of the brain? And in an age that is more and more bombarded by distractions, by things that have us be overwhelmed, things that lead us to have decision fatigue, stress and anxiety, and cognitive decline. So enhancing focus and decision making. Research suggests that purpose activates the prefrontal cortex, and the prefrontal cortex gets called the CEO of the brain. And it's basically the part of your brain that is good at weighing up pros and cons. So really, really important when you're making decisions at work, at play, in your life. You want to have a really good, clear picture. The prefrontal cortex is also really good at putting things in the big picture. So this particular decision that you're making, zooming out and going, how will this affect me in the broader scale of things? So having a really, really strong purpose helps with that part of the brain. It also helps with working memory. So the activation enhances our ability to concentrate and make more informed decisions, which really our life is an amalgamation of decisions and choices that we make day to day. And for us to be happy with the choices that we make and to be able to zoom out and say, how is this going to help me in the big picture, is a fantastic power to have. It also improves cognitive efficiency. So there's an increase in cognitive efficiency, which helps to process information faster and make decisions more readily. So this heightened cognitive efficiency translates into improved productivity in various aspects of life. Now, we can often think of the word productivity in terms of workplace. And although workplace productivity is brilliant, we're not just a workplace human being. Productivity across the board. How do you want to live your life? What types of activities do you want in your life? What types of choices and ability to process information do you want to have in your life? And having a very, very clear sense of your purpose in your day-to-day personal life and workplace can help you to process information faster. And also, we're bombarded with information constantly. And I mentioned something called decision fatigue, and some of you might resonate with this. And basically, decision fatigue is something that happens when our brain is thrown too much information all at once together. Basically, the internet, the internet age. When there is too much information, our brain finds it difficult to pick out what is the important part of this information, and to focus on those things. So having that clear sense of purpose is going to make your brain better at processing large amounts of information and deciding what is important, i.e., what is directly in correlation with what you are trying to achieve. And resilience and well-being. So there's an awful lot of talk about resilience and well-being, and of course there would be, because we're products of our environment. And over the last number of years, there seems to be slap after slap after slap with individuals and global scale events. And that can also wear people down. That wears people down an awful lot, because we can sustain a certain amount of stress, and after a while that starts to corrode at our ability to live well, to experience the day-to-day well. So purposeful individuals demonstrate greater resilience in the face of stress and challenges. So resilience is attributed to increased synaptic connectivity, and that's just a fancy way to say how the information passes from one section of your brain to the other, which allows for more efficient communication between brain cells and enhanced emotional regulation. So I've chatted quite a bit about the cognitive, the kind of the information side, the memory side, but actually having a clear sense of purpose helps with emotional regulation. So when you have enhanced emotional regulation, that helps you to process high amounts of stress and high amounts of anxiety much, much, much more efficiently. It's going to bring that lived experience of your day-to-day back to center, back to, whoa, okay, I've landed back in the room. This is where I'm at. My decision making is better. My information processing is better. I'm able to stand behind my choices with a much more organic degree of emotional regulation, and not feel like you're being led astray and pushed and pulled in all these directions that you have no control over. So what does infusing purpose into daily life look like? Intentional actions is number one. So everyday intentions serve as reminders to align even the smallest action with your larger life goals. That ensures every task that you do, regardless of its apparent significance, contributes to overall purpose. What do I mean by that? So one of the greatest tellers as to whether people engage in the workplace is if they feel that the tasks that they're undertaking have meaning. So we've all been there at some point in our professional life where we seem to be working on something and we go, jeepers, I've no idea what this is even for. What does this even mean in the broader sense of scale of this workplace, and what's my place in it? Now, that's an example of an individual kind of their sense of meaning declining, and that having a ripple effect on their own emotions, their own sense of purpose, and their own sense of what's the point of this. So when we align our actions with intentionality and purpose, that's basically a fancy way of saying, why am I doing this task? Right? And you can apply this on a personal level, you can apply this in a workplace setting. If prior to undertaking this particular task, whatever it may be, you go, what is the purpose of this? And an even better and more charged version of this is to harness your brain's motivation pathways, which are linked to dopamine. That basically, if you can place a purposeful reward on the task that you're doing, i.e., something that you will gain from it that's meaningful to you. And in our society, we really underplay the importance of personal meaning, but really, it's one of the greatest tellers as to whether somebody is going to have a fulfilling experience of their life. So it matters. It matters an awful lot. If you can tie a particular task that you're doing to, and even if it's quite a small task, think of it longer scale. How is this bringing me closer to something that really matters to me? And we know this stuff. We know it instinctively. We know it intuitively, but really bringing a conscious part of that to when you undertake your tasks is a really, really good way of infusing purpose into daily life. So that's tying onto the meaningful tasks. It's connecting the tasks that we deeply care about, makes them intrinsically motivating. It's harnessing that dopamine pathway. So whenever there's a dopamine pathway that's getting a reward, the hack there, and I hate that word, but the hack there is wherever there's a dopamine pathway being formed, it makes that behavior simpler to replicate. Your brain is going to want a reward. We love rewards. It's like the marshmallow test all over again. We love rewards. If we can tie a task to something that is personally meaningful to us, the enjoyment goes up and it becomes a lot easier for us to replicate that behavior and that habit. Dopamine is one of the main neurotransmitters that's involved in habit creation. And one of the quick ways to hack that is to create a habit based on something meaningful. Now, the mindfulness and the presence, I think people hear the word mindfulness and, they think of lotus pose, Zen, this person humming, and it doesn't have to be like that. Basically, all mindfulness means is the opposite of mindlessness. So, doing a task mindlessly, doing a task mindfully just means there's a degree of intentionality to what you're undertaking. So bringing your mind back to what you're doing. And it's a very small shift and it has a really profound effect on your experience, your cognitive capabilities, and your ability to undertake that task to the best of your ability. So it allows us to turn everyday experiences into opportunities for growth and fulfillment. And transforming a task against the same type of idea here, integrating that sense of purpose into daily routines transforms mundane tasks into meaningful activities. And coming into some of we'll have a look at daily routines in a while, because something to remember is you are also an amalgamation of all of your daily routines and habits. So if you're able to transform and link meaning and purpose to all of your daily routine and habits, it is going to have a transformational effect on your life. So cognitive reframing, transforming challenges into opportunities. And this is tying into that resilience piece a little bit. So shifting perspective, cognitive reframing involves consciously changing our perspective on adversity, setbacks, challenges. Something's more difficult than you thought it was going to be. It always is, though, isn't it? Instead of viewing those challenges as obstacles, we learn to see them as opportunities by leveraging neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is a highfalutin way of basically saying your brain's ability to change itself. Now, we think of ourselves as growing to the ripe old age of 20 and that our brains are done. They're done, they're solidified, they're concrete, but that isn't the case. Throughout your entire life, you are going to have the capabilities of rewiring certain aspects of your brain. Now, how that becomes a bit more difficult and why we can get stuck in our habits is because of that dopamine pathway. So as I mentioned a while ago, when we undertake specific habits and tasks that lead us to a reward, it becomes easier for your brain to repeat these behaviors and actions. So over time, it can become more difficult to break out of those specific patterns, behaviors, and habits because your brain loves them. They're like, no, I'm not going to do something different if I know that this is going to bring me a reward. And reframing that emotional resilience aspect, the reframing stress reduces the impact and enhances our ability to learn from challenging experiences. So each challenge that we overcome strengthens our neural pathways associated with problem solving and emotional resilience. So how do we tie that back into purpose? If you have an intrinsic purpose and an intrinsic meaning that you place on something, it's a lot easier to reframe challenges as opportunities to get closer. If something is really, really meaningful to you, it's a whole different kettle of fish than doing a task that you don't particularly care about, that you can't place how this has any bearing on anything whatsoever. All of a sudden, slap, it becomes harder than you thought it would be. That's incredibly demotivating. When you've placed a purpose and a meaning onto it that is personally significant. And, there's a little bit of creativity has to go into this, particularly when you're undertaking quite boring tasks, I'll admit. But if you're able to tie those to something that is intrinsically rewarding to you, it becomes a lot easier to go, okay, so that didn't go according to plan, but because this is really personally meaningful to me, I'm going to look for a workaround. I'm going to go, that didn't work. What could work? And when you look at the world's best performers, be it, people that have thriving multinational businesses, people that are high peak performers on a sports level, a creative level, oftentimes their superpower brain hack is as simple as whatever they are doing matters more to them than anything else in the world. They're so embedded with how significant and meaningful it is to them that they will look for workarounds when something doesn't work out. They will reframe setbacks and challenges as, well, that didn't work. What can work? So getting more into the practicalities. Okay, bring it back to the material world here. The first step in this is finding what is important to you. Now, most of us have some idea of this, but for those of us that largely, get carried away day by day, and God, I know I do that most of my days, is whatever's in front of me is what I'll have to run towards. Taking a moment to actually sit into that and go, okay, I know that this is going to be transformative from my experience of my own life, my ability to undertake challenges, my cognitive skills, etc., etc. I need to give myself 10 minutes at least to go, what is important to me? What is the biggest driver in my life? Now, I've popped that down as a guided visualization. It doesn't need to be anything like that. It's as simple as a pen and notepad and going, what are the most important things to me in this life that I will, what's that thing people say? I will go to the trenches for. Write those down. What are some things that you really, really want to achieve in our finite time here on earth? And you write those down. You say, I commit to those things. I commit to those things as something deeply meaningful and purposeful. Now, the next part is giving yourself a really simple sentence for your brain to latch onto, because when we think about grand meaning, grand purpose, there's all these different sentences. You could say freedom, autonomy, creativity. I want to be the best. I want to be successful. That's an awful lot of words. And your brain works better with very, very shortcuts. So, in the same way as companies and different organizations have a mission statement, if you're able to give your brain a delicious, positive sentence that distills as much of the things that are important and purposeful into one sentence, it's going to be able to tap into all of that motivational, emotional energy that sentence carries. And if you have that sentence down somewhere for yourself to see, it's going to become a lot easier to tap into all of what that represents for you. There's an awful lot of talks you can look at, or just simple web pages out there to just say, how can I distill a personal mission statement? Now, the next part is creating a purpose plan. So I mentioned about having our daily activities, our daily habits, identify what these daily routines are. Now, there's things we have to do, there's things we want to do, there's things we need to do. Although need and want may be the same thing, or have to, I should say. Find out what you do every single day and align those activities with that mission statement. Right, that sentence that distills all of the things that you absolutely stand for, and that you're like, yes, this is me. I love this. And consider how these activities can contribute to your core values and aspirations. So the things that drive you the most, how can these activities be linked to that? What are you getting from that? And people talk a lot about the why. I know Simon Sinek has brilliant talks out there on finding your why, which is a lot of what this talk is. But actually, what you will find is if your daily habits reflect in some shape or form who you are, who you choose to be, it's going to become a lot easier. Not only are you going to get that intrinsic yes feeling of every little step I do, no matter how small, is bringing me closer to the person I want to be. Everything I'm doing has intrinsic purpose and meaning. And as I said, it can be quite a creative act to link taking out the bins or whatever it may be. But find the things you have to do every day and link them to your purpose. Then set actionable steps to find specific measurable actions that integrate more of the things that drive you, more of the things that are purposeful to you, more of the things that are meaningful to you. For example, if you're somebody that absolutely thrives on community, is there a very small thing you can do most days that harnesses what you are good at and just gives it out there for free? I find things like messaging boards online a really good community space. Is there something that you can do every single day that's going to give a little bit more of that mission statement into your day? It will absolutely transform your life to have awareness and conscious awareness of this. I'm saying it very emphatically, and I rarely talk in those levels of emphaticism, but it absolutely does. And it is going to help to reframe those challenges. So when you analyze past challenges, you learn to identify the silver lining. And sometimes that is painful to do, particularly if something has gone really, really off plan, really wrong. You might have really been gunning for a particular role, or whatever it may be. If you've just gotten a big slap in the face by life and gone, this is totally off plan, make it a practice, even if it's difficult, to look for the silver lining in things. And this isn't kind of hooey positive psychology in the negative connotation of that term, that you ignore bad things and just focus on the good. It's not that. You're stretching the muscle of resilience here. You're stretching your ability to bounce back from things. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we live in a universe where chaos happens. Not everything goes to plan. It's your ability to commit to what is most important to you in those times that is going to see you through very, very tough times. I don't know if you guys know that video. And tough times never last, only tough people last. And it's a cliche, but it's true. There's cliché-isms for a reason. Reframing is crucial for unlocking your potential. If you hide behind the slaps of life, unfortunately, you will have a daily experience of hiding. And I've been there, we've all been there at some particular points in our life where it's too painful to go back out into the arena. It's too painful to go back in, and you end up hiding. And unfortunately, the felt experience of that is that years can go by and you'll feel like you're still hiding. And my big thing with all of these talks is always, what is your daily experience of life and how can you get more of it into it? So that is my bit for today. I hope you guys found that helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please hit the comment box. Would love to hear from you guys. And you can watch this back, because I know I put quite a bit into it. But the major takeaways with this are going to be: identify what drives you, identify what is most meaningful and purposeful to you, and bring conscious awareness into linking these to your daily habits, because we are very, very complicated, complex beings, but actually there's quite simple little tweaks that help to change our lives drastically. Right, that's me for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. And I think Andrew is back with you guys next week. For those watching back, you can also comment on the videos. Have a lovely rest of your day, and find something purposeful and meaningful in it. We'll talk to you again. Bye.